Best of r/ChoosingBeggars episode 21. I was taking out my trash and had my recycles on top, which included an empty tin of Danish cookies. One of my neighbors must have spotted the tin as I walked by the mail area, as she came running up beside me and asked if that was trash, pointing to the tin. CB, is that trash? Pointing to the Danish cookie tin on top of my recycles. Me, yes. CB, can I have it? Me, sure. I went to reach out to get it to hand it to her, but she snatched it rather quickly. CB, with a look of disgust, you are going to give me an empty cookie tin? Me, you asked for it? CB, who the F at $ gives someone an empty cookie tin? She drops it on the floor, spins on her heel and starts to walk away, and then comes back. You know, you got me all excited for cookies and I see all of those Amazon boxes in your cart. There is still time for you to order me some and have them delivered before Christmas. Me, seriously? I picked up my tin and walked off, half expecting her to get physical, as angry as she was at me for not having a full tin of cookies in my recycles to give her. Thank you. Next. My brother has a new girlfriend. It seems like, every year. Since June he's been dating this girl with 3 kids, 15, 12, 7. I met them all once. The girlfriend was kind, the kids were shy and into their games. My brother announced that he and his family will spend Christmas at my place, with all of our extended family, but asked everyone to get the kids gifts. I said no big deal, I'll pick up something cheap. But he gave us their Christmas list. It includes a new iPhone, video games, expensive toys, etc. The cheapest thing on there was a $50 Amazon gift card. When I said that I won't spend more than $20 totally for all 3 of them, my brother got upset and actually called me a bitch. How can you demand expensive gifts for kids I hardly know? I'm not buying anyone anything. Thank you. Next. This just happened to me yesterday and I honestly can't believe the unprofessionalism that I had with this one business. 2 days ago I called a HVAC company because I bought a new smart thermostat and wanted it installed. I previously tried to do it myself, but something just wasn't working. When asking for a price, I was told by the operator that installation was $100 and asked when I would like someone to come over. No other fees discussed. Following day, yesterday, for those of you keeping track, the technician came over while I was at work and my fiancée was home to help with giving the Wi-Fi info and whatnot. The guy was prompt, courteous, and efficient according to her. However, the bill now had an additional $60 service fee. Given that this was never mentioned prior, I was understandably upset and felt like I had gotten a bait and switch. I ended up calling the tech to inquire about the fee and mentioned how at no point was this fee explained to me, nor provided in a quote. The guy mentions how it's a standard fee for driving his truck and that I should have expected it but will call his supervisor about it. I told him I understand the fee, but just that at no point in time it was made aware to me. At this point he hangs up and a few minutes later I get a notification saying the service fee is refunded. Awesome. This is where the choosy begging starts to come into play. A few hours later the tech calls me again to tell me about the refund, but then kinda goes off on how he's not made any money on my job because of truck fees, gas, and overhead. I'm honestly in the back of my mind not caring because I've been polite and just mentioned that I wanted to bring to his attention I was misquoted. He then goes on how he doesn't do a job unless it's at least $150 and how I'm taking money out of his pocket. I just say thank you for your time and refunding the fee and hang up. The funny thing is, at no point did I ever request a refund. They just gave it to me and complained about it. If this doesn't belong here, please let me know and I'll remove it. Also, on mobile and English is my first language. Thank you. Next. A lady we will call hired me to watch her husky pup. Upon hiring me, she told me that she had not put in any work with training the dog at all because she didn't really care about him. The dog belongs to her 10 and 12-year-old stepdaughters, so she felt she had no responsibility. This peeves me, but it isn't my business, and as long as the pupper is safe, healthy, and happy, why should I worry? So, she brings the dog over and she explains that she is divorcing her husband and moving to Georgia. I am to watch the dog for 4 days. I decided since it isn't an official app job, I'll lower the fee for my services. Via the app, I charge $25 per day and I rarely take clients for home watch. I'm only charging this woman $10 per day. Every day I send her updates with pictures. At least 3 times a day. Letting her know that we are doing well. Any accidents that happened. He peed inside several times the first 3 days. That we're going to the dog park, etc. She never asked me how her dog was. I always just updated her. So, 4th day comes around and not a word from her. I text her that morning. I call her around 1 PM, no answer. I figure she's driving and can't talk/text. Pickup is at 4 PM. I message her at 3:30 PM asking if she is going to be there. She responds no, and can I extend the time by 2 days? Sure NP, but it really can't be past 2 days as my husband and I have travel plans ourselves for the holidays and maybe there overnight. She agrees. Note, in this time, I have house trained, crate trained, and lead trained this dog. All things that are necessary for him to be in my house. Extend day 2 rolls around and I message her asking if she can pick him up around 2. She sends a very rude text about how the roads are icy. I don't believe this, though it is possible, and she wasn't going to endanger the life of her children for under $100. And if I don't want to watch the dog, that she will hire someone else in future. I'm stung by this because I feel like I was handling the situation fairly professionally. I call on my friends to assess if I am being the coup. They all deem my texts professional and as assertive, not coup at all. I felt better, and so I tell her that I need the dog gone by 2 PM the following day and she will be paying the $60 she still owes. I knocked off the fee for the first day because she dropped him off after 5 PM. Next morning, I get a text saying she will pick him up today. She sent another dog sitting service to collect the dog. I asked how much they were charging. They said $30 per day plus a $50 pickup fee. I'm laughing so hard right now. I will upload screenshots of the texts when I can get my phone back up. Question: did I handle this professionally? Edit: she did pay me. She sent payment with the pickup service. Thank you. Next. This happened last night and it was one of the most satisfying encounters I've ever had with someone with a downright comical sense of entitlement. I took a flight from San Francisco to Boston that was in the afternoon after a full day of work. I have a $200 airline credit to use on just this one flight before I lose it at the end of the year, so I was debating between trying to drink through $200 of free booze over the 6-hour flight versus upgrading my seat to the front row. In the end I decided to go with a seat upgrade and I picked the window seat in the absolute front row of the plane with a shameful amount of leg room and an empty middle seat. I never get upgrades, so this felt like quite the luxury to me. Turns out the rest of the plane was completely full, so I was feeling pretty good about this decision. However, I still had some work to do on my laptop and was disappointed that because there were no seats in front, I could not keep my backpack in front of me, and I realized I had to go fight the mob of people still boarding for some overhead bin space before they all filled up. There was a very nice businessman sitting in the aisle seat in my row who stood up to help me. This is relevant later. Thank you. Next. Where I work there's a gas station next to it that I go to on my breaks to grab a drink. I walked in and heard a guy asking how much the coffee was. When the lady told him the small cup was only 65 cents, he scrambled for change. Me: hey man, I'll buy your coffee, just let me grab my own drink. CB: oh man, thanks. I really appreciate it. 2 minutes go by. Me: alright, I got my drink, let's go up to the counter. CB: hey, you think you could buy me some smokes too? Me: sure, I'll buy you a pack. CB: oh, and one more thing. CB starts grabbing M&Ms and various chocolates, then starts looking at where the pre-made lunch items are. He grabs a sandwich and cold burrito. Me: hey man, I offered to buy your coffee, not all this. CB: well, if you're going to offer to buy my coffee you can't short me out, man. How are you going to buy my coffee and not lunch? Me: alright, well, I'll buy you the coffee and a sandwich, but that's all I can get you. CB: no way man, I gotta have my smokes too. Me: you know what? Forget it. Me to the cashier. Here, charge me for the coffee and my Gatorade. I walked out and the cashier tells the CB that I only paid for his coffee. CB then runs out and follows me to my job. CB: okay, I am sorry, can you at least buy me the smokes? Me: no. You already made me late back from my break. I gotta go. CB: fuck you man for getting my hopes up. CB attempts to throw coffee, but the force of the throw causes the coffee to come out of the top and spill all over him. I walk back into my job, but the CB gave up. Thank you. Next. This happened last night and it was one of the most satisfying encounters I've ever had with someone with a downright comical sense of entitlement. I took a flight from San Francisco to Boston that was in the afternoon after a full day of work. I have a $200 airline credit to use on just this one flight before I lose it at the end of the year, so I was debating between trying to drink through $200 of free booze over the 6-hour flight versus upgrading my seat to the front row. In the end I decided to go with a seat upgrade and I picked the window seat in the absolute front row of the plane with a shameful amount of leg room and an empty middle seat. I never get upgrades, so this felt like quite the luxury to me. Turns out the rest of the plane was completely full, so I was feeling pretty good about this decision. However, I still had some work to do on my laptop and was disappointed that because there were no seats in front, I could not keep my backpack in front of me, and I realized I had to go fight the mob of people still boarding for some overhead bin space before they all filled up. There was a very nice businessman sitting in the aisle seat in my row who stood up to help me. This is relevant later. The overhead bins filled very quickly, at which point the flight attendant at the plane door started announcing overhead bins are almost full. Put your bags in the first one you see. To all the people still boarding the plane. Now here comes the last man to board the plane. He's probably about 6 feet 3 feet and he runs in and kind of shoots the shit with one of the flight attendants for a few minutes, and I'm not paying too much attention besides hoping he's not going to take the middle seat and the fact that he is talking very loudly and he seems to be a bit drunk. For the rest of the story I will call this man Dirk because I don't know what the male version of Karen is. Nobody is in any rush to start getting ready for takeoff and we soon know why. The pilot gets on the loudspeaker and says because of the weather in Boston we need to wait here before we can take off. Now Dirk has stopped talking to the flight attendant and starts to walk down the aisle, sees our empty middle seat, and announces, cool, I'll take this first seat because it's empty. Throws his backpack down in the space in front of us and slams himself into the middle seat. Now of course I wouldn't have minded if someone had purchased the middle seat, but now I'm grumbling a bit internally thinking about how I spent my airline credit on this upgrade instead of booze while this guy is going to get the nice seat for free. And nobody immediately came up to him and asked him to move his backpack, so I'm also frustrated that I had to go put mine away and now his bag is in front of my feet. And finally Dirk is being extremely loud and vocal. For example, when the pilot came on the loudspeaker again and said we would be waiting 45 minutes before takeoff, Dirk yelled out, man, this is some bullshit. Semicolon, stuff like that over and over. So at this point I haven't said anything to him, but I'm sitting there probably looking like this. It's been about 5 minutes already, not too long, but I'm starting to think they're just going to let this fly. Then comes one of the flight attendants and walks up to this guy and says, so can I please see your boarding pass? The man laughs a bit and says he just showed it at the gate, and the flight attendant repeats that he would like to see it. So the man starts rummaging through his backpack and hands the attendant some crumpled up paper and then goes back to his phone. The flight attendant uncrumples it and now starts to look annoyed and goes, so you just handed me a receipt. Try again. The man starts belly laughing like, oh my bad, and then pulls his boarding pass from his pocket. Of course, he is in 32B, and the flight attendant asks him to go to his assigned seat. Now they start to fight, with Dirk saying but the guy said to take the first available seat. Nobody is sitting here anyway. And the attendant repeating that he didn't know how he heard that, but people need to pay to upgrade to these seats and he needs to go to his assigned seat now. Things started to get heated and Dirk is full on screaming now, saying why did he say to take the first available seat then? Why was he lying? The attendant is yelling back, this isn't Southwest. And the rest of the plane is silent and watching. Now at this point I'm guessing Dirk misinterpreted the guy at the door saying to throw your bags in the first available overhead bin, but I did not want to get involved and have this potentially drunk man next to me direct his anger at me. Edit. The flight attendant announcing this was being very clear about this being for bags as well, so I think Dirk was just making up excuses. At this point there are 3 flight attendants in the aisle arguing with Dirk, who is still repeating the same thing about being lied to over and over. They are saying he needs to move or get kicked off the plane, and Dirk is replying that of course he would rather make it home to Boston tonight than get kicked off, but he needs an explanation first as to why they lied to him. In comes a boss of a lady who wasn't taking any of Dirk's shit to join the argument. She interrupts Dirk and says, look, you have two options. Take your assigned seat or get off the plane. I don't care what you think you heard. I don't know why we are still having this conversation. Then when Dirk would open his mouth to continue arguing, the lady would hold up her hand and yell ah, like a mother silencing their toddler having a tantrum, and I am sitting there 6 inches away from the action watching this all go down like this. Dirk sits there in silence for a few moments, mouth open, looking at this lady, and then stays sitting in the seat and looks back at his phone and starts mumbling again in a low voice about being lied to. At this point the 3 flight attendants walk away, and Dirk seems to think that he's won, but lo and behold 1 minute later security comes on the plane. Now seeing this, Dirk stands straight up and says, okay, I will go take my seat, and starts to walk down the aisle, but they stop him and remove him from the plane, and we didn't see him again. And me and the nice man sitting in the aisle seat ended up getting free drinks for the rest of the flight for our troubles. TL. Dr. A guy on my flight tried to snag an unoccupied premium class seat for free because he misheard directions, commits to keeping the seat when they threaten to kick him off the plane, and ends up getting kicked off the plane. I got free drinks for the rest of the flight.